Alright, this is John Cole with GrowingYourGreens.com on a Segway tour today, having so much fun touring the city of Oakland, looking for things that are edible, an edible garden. So I ran into this community garden here today, and we got to get off the Segway here, and let's go ahead and give you a tour of this garden. So we're here at Lakeside Park Community Garden. Now this is a whole garden. They have one section of the community garden. They have a Japanese garden, an herb garden. This is actually a beautiful garden here in the city of Oaktown, and it's actually right next to Lake Merritt. Lake Merritt's a nice lake, especially on a nice sunny day here at the beginning of April. You could walk around, bike around, or even Segway around. So I've been having really fun on those Segways. But in any case, we're here in the community garden area now, and today's episode is going to be on the greens that people are growing here in the community garden, and you know what's growing currently in the beginning of April. And you know, I want to really encourage people to grow their greens. After all, my YouTube channel is called Growing Your Greens, and that's for one very important reason. In my opinion, leafy green vegetables are the number one nutrient dense foods that you could be growing in your garden, that everybody should be growing nutrient dense leafy greens and eating them and consuming them every single day so that they can be healthy, wealthy, and strong, just like Popeye. So in any case, let's walk around this community garden and check out what greens are currently growing here in Oaktown. So this is just one community garden plot, and you can see here they're growing Dino Kale, maybe called Dino Kale, Lacticino Kale, or Black Kale, also called Tuscan Kale. So there's many things they call this guy, and these guys can actually grow like trees, kind of like the tree kale, and this can be a long-lived kale. Actually, once it does go to flower, you can see the beautiful flowers here. And once again, you know, you can eat the flowers on the kale, and you can also eat the pre-flowering heads. So you could pick these off and eat them like broccoli. You can also eat the flowers. And you know, once the kale plant goes to seed, or that's it's happening now, it's making the flowers so that it can produce seeds. It pretty much only makes these small leaves to eat. Now these leaves are still edible, not quite as desirable. So what you might want to do to encourage it to continue to growing is basically cut off all the flowering tips. It's also called deadheading. And once you do that, then it may throw out more leaves, or it also might try to basically push out more flower buds on you. But once again, if you keep cutting them off judiciously, you know, it will finally get out of the mode and continue to grow more leaves for you to eat. So these can be long-lived plants and live for several years. Once again, this is the dinosaur kale. Let's move on to another unknown leafy green that isn't often eaten raw. So next here we have Fava Beans, and they're growing the favas probably for the nitrogen fixing capability as a winter cover crop. You could also eat the little flowers, which are quite edible and delicious, look really pretty too. And what many people don't know is that sometimes I like to eat the baby greens off the fava beans, so the baby fava bean greens. Now, I personally wouldn't have a whole salad of these, but maybe, you know, a couple added to your salads, definitely going to be fine. In the bean family and the bean class of foods, there are some basically toxins in the beans themselves. So in some cases, like fava beans that are mature beans should never be eaten raw. So there are toxins in the fava beans when they're mature, so you don't want to eat them raw. You need to basically cook the fava beans so that they are edible and get rid of the naturally occurring toxins. And once again, those toxins are also occurring in the leaves. So don't go crazy on eating the raw leaves. I would just encourage you to, you know, have a couple sprigs here and there if you want in your salads. Most days, I don't even bother because I have better greens. So let's check out some of those better greens here that are growing here in Oakland. So here's some more leafy greens growing here in Oakland at the community garden. Once again, this one's called Mache, and now Mache you could direct seed, and you could direct seed them really close. They'll grow as a nice patch. This is the Mache here. This is a really delicious salad green. Kind of has a nice flavor, reminiscent of lettuce. Another one that we're going to cover right now also is the chickweed. So this thing can grow as a weed. So you could tell it's chickweed by the little white flowers. That's definitely some good chickweed. On the chickweed, I usually just like to pinch off the tips and eat the tips as a salad. In this case, it looks like the chickweed actually might be a weed because chickweed does grow as a weed. and I have a lot growing in my front bed because I grew it there intentionally last year, but it came back this year in full force. But it's good because it's all edible. So here's another plot, and there's so many different things growing in this community garden. Right here we have some mustard greens. So you know, I'm not a big fan of mustard greens, and you've probably never seen me grow a mustard green plant. That's for a very important reason, actually. If you take one of these mustard greens and just try to eat it raw in a salad, it'll light your throat up on fire like you've just eaten like wasabi. It's really hot and spicy. Now if you like that, great, but you know, normally what they do with mustard greens is you take them and you cook them on up, and it reduces the heat intensity. I personally don't like to cook my greens. I like to eat them straight up, juice them or blend them, so I don't personally juice mustard greens. But mustard greens, once again, are a delicious green you could grow here in Oakland this time of year. Also looks like they got some bok choy, and I do plant a lot of bok choy. Looks like their bok choy here is getting nibbled on by some slugs and snails and some other critters. They also have in this garden here some chard, Swiss chard, yet another delicious leafy green. And behind me they even have more leafy greens. Now some people would consider this an herb, but I would consider this a leafy green. This is parsley. Sometimes I'll just pick a whole bunch of parsley and that would be my salad. I mean, think about tabbouleh. Tabbouleh is a salad made primarily of parsley. So yet more greens here in Oakland, and this one is one of my favorites. Now this is another good variety to grow in the summertime. I recommend you only grow Dino Kale or Red Russian Kale. They seem to do pretty good with the heat, and once again you can pluck off all the flowering tops or the broccoli-like tops and eat them, and also hopefully encourage more leaf growth. So once again, this is the Red Russian Kale. Has a really nice flavor. I prefer the Red Russian Kale over the dinosaur kale that you just saw. Next here we have a really common variety of kale. This is just known as the standard curly kale. Now I don't really like growing the curly kale too much because of all the frillies, and you know, bugs seem to hide and stuff in there. And these actually can grow for many, many years. I've had one of these guys for a long time, and we would just basically cut off the flowering tops once again. And once again, you can't eat the flowering tops. Use it just like broccoli. Cut them off and then encourage more leaf growth. But what will happen, and I found, is that it would just grow smaller leaves. It would never make those super huge, large leaves again. So, you know, have fun in your garden and experiment and let things grow and just see what happens. I mean, because you can control when to harvest, when to pull it out, when to compost it, or whatever. Or just, you know, think of it as a one big fun science experiment. Hey, I'm going to grow this and just see what happens. I'm going to continue to plug off the flowering tips and see if I get more food. I don't know, see what happens. See if it doesn't make it, see if I can keep it going. Anyways, last leafy green we're going to talk about in this bed here is the escarole. So the escarole, you might think, hey John, that looks a lot like lettuce. Well, it definitely doesn't taste like lettuce, and I do find that the escarole is a lot more bug resistant than lettuce because it is actually kind of a bitter green, and so bugs don't like this as much as they like lettuce, where they'll eat up all the lettuce hardcore, but they'll leave the escarole alone. So if you're having problems with lettuce, grow some escarole. Grows just like it. And you could also eat escarole as a salad green, but you better like it bitter. Put a lot of dressing, it'll cover it right up. So I know you guys often see my tree collards are in absolute amazement that they're, I don't know, 15 feet tall, nice big stalks. And frankly, I am too, because nowhere else have I ever been to see tree collards. Do they grow like mine? Do I have a special variety? Well, no, it's all in the soil, stupid. You gotta basically grow in rich soil full of compost and rock dust. Give the plant everything it needs so it can be as healthy as it could be, grow lush and bountiful. Actually, also tree collards do like a lot of water. So in any case, let's take a look at the tree collards here. I'm happy that, you know, there's not only tree collards in this bed, but I see other, you know, community gardeners have tree collards growing in their bed. But you can see here, these tree collards have been here a while. If we look down at the bottom, it has a fairly nice thick stalk, probably about as large as a stalk on my trees, but unfortunately it just doesn't look as healthy. They basically encourage a lot of side shooting, and you know, on the top there's just a few greens on each of the tops of the tree collards. Now they may have been plucking some of these leaves away, to eat, to harvest. But you know what? We can look at some of the other plants here, and you know, they just don't quite look as big and bountiful and lush as mine. I mean, you could definitely see here where they've been, basically looks like they've been ripping off pieces of it to encourage side shooting. But you know, to me, it looks cool, don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't look super vibrant and super healthy. And I personally don't know why that is. It might be either the soil, or maybe not getting enough water, or you know, there is a lot of you know, slugs, damage, and maybe some bugs in this garden, but I don't think it would affect it this bad. So in any case, the lesson to learn here is that, you know, soil, soil, soil. Make sure you have good soil, nutrient dense soil, organic compost, and don't forget the rock dust. The minerals really make it or break it, you know. Add in the trace minerals, basically supercharges your plants, supercharges their growth. They grow quicker, they grow faster, they taste better, they grow bigger, and the plant is more bug and disease resistant because it's just healthier overall. It's like if you took your minerals, you know, you're gonna be healthier too. But the best thing is when we eat the plants that contain the minerals, taste sweeter, plus we get the minerals now from the plants from nature, how we should in the first place. Oh, and the other cool thing about this plot, I'm just still tripping off this, if we go, so the top story here, or above the ground, they have a lot of the tree collards, and they're about 4 feet tall, but if we go to the bottom story, even cooler, they got all these stinging nettles. Now these stinging nettles look like they're doing really good. They got some nice big leaves. I don't know if they're growing these intentionally down here, if they just came in as a weed, because once again, the stinging nettles are another leafy green you can eat, and they're definitely good. Besides the stinging nettles also, they got some mint, and I think that probably did come up as a weed. So they got lots of greens growing on here in this community garden and raised bed, and I love it a lot. Let's move on to another community garden raised bed and check out some more greens. Here's another leafy green that you should pay attention to. Now this one is actually called chicory, but if you go into like a Whole Foods market, they'll call it Dandelion Greens. And you know, this is closely related to the dandelion. You can see the leaf shape. Now these guys, if you go into Whole Foods, you know, they'll sell you a bunch of these for like $3. But you know what? You could easily grow chicory or dandelion greens for yourself. Now they are a bitter green, and it's said that they're very good in helping you detoxify. So I love to eat my bitter greens sometimes. And once again, you know, you wouldn't probably pull all these leaves and have a salad just out of dandelion greens. You'd go around your whole garden, pick one leaf of kale, one leaf of lettuce, one leaf of dandelion greens, one leaf of everything, chop it all up, mix it into a salad, put a nice dressing on it, eat it on up. So you're gonna get more greens in you so that you can be more healthy. In this raised bed, they're growing rainbow chard. So by rainbow chard, I mean they're growing like yellow chard, red chard, green chard. And you can tell the color by the color of the stems. Now once again, you know, I encourage you to grow chards and other plants of different colors or varieties. So all the different colors in the stalks, whether it's a pink, a red, an orange, a yellow, a green, they're going to provide you with different antioxidants. So remember, eat the rainbow so that you get all the antioxidants you need so you can be the healthiest you can be. So this is the last bed we'll be talking about, and in this bed they have celery growing. It looks really amazing. Now once again, I've never gotten my celery to grow up and grow tight big heads like you buy in the store, but that's the fun of gardening. You're going to learn and find out what you get when you grow it yourself. So you know what? The celery greens are also edible. Once again, I wouldn't pick a whole bunch of celery greens and just eat the greens straight up, but you know, I might pick a leaf or two and put that into a salad. And some of these celery greens look amazing, and once again, there are the celery stalks here. Now the celery stalks you're gonna grow at home, they're probably not gonna turn out like the store. They're gonna be more harder, woodier, but also have a more intense celery flavor. I mean, the celery I buy from the store tastes so bland, not like the stuff I've grown that tastes like super rich. Also in this bed, you know, they have this cool little trellis system. I don't know what's going on with it, but it looks really cool. Probably in the summertime they grow beans or peas up it, and I can see the beans just climbing up and then just filling this whole thing. It's actually built like an X. Looks really cool. Right now underneath it they have some dinosaur kale, and this is the baby dinosaur kale, not yet, you know, gone to flower yet. And then over in this area below it they have some mustard greens. This contraption above it too, besides being used as a trellis, Maybe if they want to grow the greens in the summertime and it's getting too hot, they might be able to put a shade cloth over it to provide some shade to some of these greens that are down below. Oh, also below here they got some bok choy growing too underneath this whole trellis system. Looks like they're making amazing use of this space here in this raised bed to grow like a lot of plants. So the plant spacing I don't often talk about too much, but I grow and use basically what's called the square foot gardening method or bio-intensive method, where you plant things closer than what's recommended on the seed packet, because if you do that, you know, the recommendations in the seed packets are meant for farmers growing in rows, not people growing in their backyard. So, for example, I know on the Dino Kales and the Kales, I generally plant them 1 foot apart. Looks like in this bed, you know, they plant them maybe 6 inches apart, a little bit close for my liking, but you know what? They're still gonna grow fine. The bok choys you could plant a little bit closer together. Looks like they have them about every 8 inches. That looks to be a good spacing. The mustard greens, maybe they got those at a 6-inch spacing. Once again, the mustard greens can get really large, but it also depends on when you want to harvest your greens. If you're planting them more for the baby greens, then you could plant them closer together. But if you want them to mature up and get larger, then you need to give them a little bit more space. And once again, growing in close quarters or growing them closer together is dependent on growing in a raised bed with highly nutritious and delicious soil for the plants. Because if you don't have good rich soil, then the whole spacing thing and growing things too close together is really not going to work for you. So one of the things I like here at this community garden, it seems that everybody is growing some greens. Hey, maybe they're all subscribers of my channel. But in any case, all the greens here have been really wonderful. And once again, the word is greens, because greens are one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. And you know what? They're going to keep you alkaline. And I don't know if you ever heard that term before, but we know that things like blueberries, for example, they like acidic soil. And they'll thrive in acidic soil. So you want to lower the pH of your soil by adding things like coffee grounds. But as people, actually our body basically, for the most part, likes it pretty much a neutral. And our blood needs to maintain a pretty much neutral, balanced pH, or else, you know, we're not going to be living anymore. Just like if you have blueberries and you plant them in really alkaline soil, they're not going to make it. So once again, we need to be in this acid-alkaline balance, like pretty much right near the middle. So if we eat a lot of foods that cause us to get very acid, like the coffee you would put on your blueberries to make them acid, if you drink coffee, that also makes your body acid and throws you out of balance. Processed foods, overconsumption of meat and dairy also will basically get you too much to the acid side. So to bring yourself back to the alkaline side, leafy greens are the answer. And that's why I'm really big up on leafy greens, so that you can have that acid alkaline balance in your body. And when you have that balance, when you're not too acid or too alkaline, you're gonna have more energy and you're gonna run optimally. So once again, really important to eat your leafy greens. I like to consume my leafy greens by just picking them and eating them as a salad. That's the easiest way to do it. Another way I like to do a lot is to juice my greens right up. Pick them, juice them. You could concentrate them in a juice form, taking away all the fiber. You could get the direct nutrition out of that juice in your body and get alkaline. So the final way I like to include more greens in my diet is by the blender, or blending or making green smoothies. And how that works is I basically take a blender, put some water in there, and then blend up some bananas for sweetness. You'll get a nice mixture. Once you got that mixture, then slowly add in greens a little bit at a time, depending if you have a powerful or not so powerful blender. If your blender's not so powerful, like one from the department store, you need to add like 1 leafy green at a time. You might want to even pre-cut it and blend up those leafy greens to basically macerate open all the cell walls so that you could get the best nutrition out of the greens. Because you know what? We're not really designed like a cow to digest our greens. And they chew, chew, and chew. And most people chew 3 times and swallow. So definitely important when you're eating your leafy greens, if you're going to eat them as a salad, chew them up really well. And that's why I really like the appliances, the juicers and the blenders that allow us to eat more leafy greens without having to chew as much. Hope you've enjoyed this tour of the community garden here in Oakland, learning about all the stuff we learned about. I mean, primarily it's the greens. Don't forget, it's the greens, silly! So that's what my channel is called, Growing Your Greens, because I want you guys to grow your greens and eat them too, because they are one of the healthiest foods on the planet. So I gotta get back and return this Segway before I get charged extra money for overtime. In any case, this is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. We'll see you next time and keep on growing!